Luke Smith has not been on YouTube in about 18 months, but I want to say like 2.5, 3 years ago, there was this hit piece on him from The Guardian that I remember when it came out. I remember when I saw it that I was enraged, and I thought about writing or making a video about it, a reaction, because I was incensed at what I saw. It was one of those kinds of character assassinations where you don't actually give him a chance to defend himself. I'm going to explain that in a minute. So, anyway, it's really interesting because this pig vomit that they call Jason Wilson, he is absolutely, let me show you here, he is absolutely pig vomit. For this article alone, oh, I guess it's more than 3 years. I guess it's been 3.5 years that he wrote it. Okay. Anyway, this guy is complete pig vomit. This is not hyperbole. He wrote this hit piece on Luke Smith that was so disgusting. I mean, I get it, like clickbait and different things. Like, that's one thing, right? You basically want to have a title that gets people's attention and that sort of thing. I totally get it. In fact, I agree with that overall. But this went way beyond that. This was a character assassination. And I just want to say something right up front, okay? These character assassinations have been going on over the past, 10 years or so, are the exact reason why Kamala Harris lost the election. I didn't want Trump to get reelected. Dude, there's no metric you can point me to where Donald Trump doesn't rob us blind. Just doesn't rob the whole country blind. There's no accountability anymore. I mean, before there was like a modicum of accountability, all of that's gone. And so now we have, thanks to people like this, we have all these character assassinations of people, and you pushed them over to the right when they might have been center right, center left. I mean, probably within the confines of the 80% that are just kind of normal politically. Yeah, he's educated, he reads a lot, and that sort of thing. Anyway, in this article, he painted Luke Smith a racist. So here's what he did, okay? So Laurent Bachelier gave a total of 28.5 bitcoins. It's worth about 500,000 people to 22 people. And on the same day, he killed himself. Basically, he wrote a suicide note in French and English. He, had like an illness that he suffered where he was in a lot of pain and lost hope, for the future, all this. And he just decided he would leave his modest wealth to certain causes and people. And most of the people that he left money to were far-right agitators, people like Nick Fuentes, right? And then there was a lesser-known beneficiary, a YouTube influencer. His name is Luke Smith, who's now a Florida resident. And he maintains a monetized YouTube channel with 109,000 subscribers. He received at least 1 Bitcoin from Bachelier, valued at the time of writing at just over $30,000. I found it funny that Luke Smith all of a sudden got into Monero about this time, right? And I didn't know why, and then I come across this article. So what this guy does is he takes, things that Luke Smith said in jest, or just said, not really being very serious, and he basically makes it out to be gospel. It's kind of like those comedians, right, that, are fighting the whole woke thing where, like, you can't be funny anymore. It's kind of like that, where he'll say something like the so-called Unabomber, whose famous manifesto Smith has at times earnestly recommended to his followers. I don't remember him ever doing that, but okay, if he did, I guarantee you it was a joke. I don't think he was serious about it. Okay. Yeah, okay, Smith might have said he wanted to live in a Unabomber cabin. Dude, he's an influencer. He is saying things just, off the cuff. He's not being serious when he says these things. At least I don't think so. I have no evidence to suggest that he would be serious about any of these things, right? And it goes on. And then he talks about like the neo-reactionary movement. Honestly, the fact is the neo-reactionary movement, he says it traces its history to 2007. Dude, the neo-reactionary movement is, as far as I know, is much older than that. It dates back to the 80s. But I think it did gain a lot of traction probably around that time. But let's see here. Smith has lately been pushing users in the direction of decentralized, resilient social media platforms in the so-called Fediverse, the network of independent social media sites that communicate with one another and allow people to interact across different sites. Well, no shit. I mean, you smear him for things that he probably didn't even really do. You're just putting words in his mouth. Yeah, he's definitely going to be more for free speech. And I'm not like a free speech absolutist, actually. I think most people on the left are as well. So then he talks about the free and open source software movement, which he should just shut his mouth right here. Like, full stop, shut your mouth. Like, you are a double piece of garbage here. Okay, the free and open source software movement has attracted many people with progressive politics who have used it to help provide digital tools to those with few resources to breathe new life into hardware that might otherwise have been added to a growing mountain of e-waste, or to move public institutions from Barcelona to Brasilia away from dependence on expensive software. However, experts say it's not surprising that someone like Smith would be tolerated or even welcomed by some elements of open source culture. Then he cites some stupid professor, Megan Squire, who is a professor of computer science at Elon University, who has published research on both the far right and open source communities. She says the dominant open source culture historically has been one of extreme misogyny, unfounded meritocracy, toxicity, and abuse of everyone. And Smith is one of those resisting efforts to change that culture. I have never seen him berate anyone, not like seriously. Like, it's one thing to say, hey, I disagree with this person. It's another thing to berate them. And usually Luke Smith will give you a very cogent reason why he disagrees with them. So again, this baffles me. Some open source platforms step beyond this and do away with the need for servers altogether by implementing a peer-to-peer network, PeerTube, for example, which allows users to browse and watch videos in a similar way to YouTube, but instead of streaming it to users from central servers, each user watching a video acts as a relay point. Yes, this is no doubt true. This is no doubt true. We basically, you're using like BitTorrent kind of technology to basically, further the videos. Yeah, for sure. Open source software like Pleroma, Mastodon, Matrix reproduce the functions of Twitter, allowing users to send brief messages to followers. But I went back one. Okay, so again, he doesn't want to be on Twitter. Okay, I don't blame him. Like, who wants to be on Twitter? It's a cesspool. Okay, whatever. Okay. The reason I want it as a trans anti-fascist is the same reason that Nazis want it. We just have opposite ends. So This is kind of interesting. Every marginalized community knows what it's like to be systematically deplatformed, says Bevancy, who uses non-binary pronouns, pointing to the way in which groups such as sex workers have adopted platforms like Mastodon after finding themselves unable to advertise their services. But as Bevancy's report shows, peer-to-peer platforms are a double-edged sword. The reason I want it is a trans anti-fascist is the same reason that a Nazi wants it. We just have opposite ends. You know who doesn't really understand it? The FBI. We're talking about technology that can't be subpoenaed. It can't be surveilled. And in order to carry out remote surveillance of private chats, you'd have to backdoor every single device in the world. Wow, yeah, probably. So I think you can kind of see that this hit piece is disgusting, right? So I want to go back to a couple of points here, okay? Remember when I said he should shut his mouth about open source? Let's see here. Where did it go? Okay, it says free and open source has attracted many people with progressive politics who basically use it on old hardware, right? What do you think Linux is? For real. I mean, don't you realize that your smart TV has Linux running into it? If you have an Android phone, which you don't, obviously, it's got Linux. Don't you understand that if you have expander for your, telephone and internet, that it's running Linux? If you have on your refrigerator or whatever it is, it's most likely running Linux, right? And what the hell is wrong with being against Apple and Microsoft? Since when are they virtuous? Dude, they're predatory. They're literal vultures. Like, it's beyond me to understand why someone like this would defend some of these proprietary software agendas. They data mine me to death, and then they sell it to third parties so that they can get my number, my email, and other things. I don't get on what planet this is a good thing. Okay? Like, I honestly don't understand what his point was with all of this. Because Linux extends to, like, everywhere. When you're talking development, most of your web development tools and most of your app development tools are used in Linux. The whole CI/CD pipeline uses Linux. Okay, Docker uses Linux. Kubernetes uses Linux. It is so disgusting. Like, this person goes, hey, someone like figured out a better way to do things on his computer and shows other people how to do it. He's got this rando far right guy who gave him a Bitcoin before he committed suicide. And the guy also gave Nick Fuentes some Bitcoin. So he must be just like Nick Fuentes. Do you see how absurd that is? Yes, Luke Smith loosely runs in some alt-right circles. That's without a doubt. Why is that? Well, probably because you pushed him that way. Why didn't you write about his college experience where he talks about where they basically tried to push him out of the PhD program? And he just kind of was disillusioned with getting a fair shot from the people on the left. And that kind of pushed him towards the right. Why don't you talk about that? I think that's a much better conversation because that's actually indicative of why Kamala Harris lost the election. No. This pig vomit goes off and he's running off at the mouth. Like, this is why the average person doesn't see you. They're going to see, I don't know, like Joe Rogan or Patrick Bet David or even that that alleged sex offender in Europe. What was his name? I can't even remember right now. I'm so flustered. Anyway, the fact of the matter is it is so interesting to me that all of these people play this holier than thou game. When it comes back to bite them, they're going to blame progressives. They're going to blame everyone else but themselves. But look, you're the one. When you play this identity politics against everyone, put everyone against each other, make everyone the enemy, people that are different. Luke Smith started his channel. I remember this actually. Okay. I remember this very well. He started his channel basically talking about how, or actually it wasn't even that. He recorded a bunch of Donald Trump rallies or something, like clips. And he was like, yeah, Donald Trump is just S-posting, right? And he thought it was funny. And that's how he started his YouTube channel. And then he was like, hey, wait a minute. I learned about LaTeX. This is actually kind of cool, this whole Linux thing. And so he started getting into it. And so he started documenting it. And because he's a teacher, he said, hey, I'll teach about this online. And there's not a lot of, I have like a really unique space to teach about this stuff. So, I could garner a following. And so he did. And this content is very popular. You can see like bread on penguins. She has about 4,000 or 5,000 subscribers. She's doing a lot of what Luke Smith used to do. She's very popular. Now, are you going to come after her? Brand her racist? Come brand me a racist. Oh, please do it. I will sue the pants off you. Like, it's not even close. I would literally sue the pants off you. I'd love you to brand me a racist. But here's the thing. The other thing that kind of like stuck out to me was, why didn't this guy, it's beyond me. Have you ever seen a racist who speaks 4 languages fluently? Because I haven't. I literally have not. He doesn't believe in like the Jewish conspiracy theories that Nick Fuentes believes, for example. He thinks they're kind of stupid from what I understand. And there was a couple of videos that were, basically tagged or whatever, like 2 years after the fact. And I remember one of them I watched, and so it was supposedly a racial slur that he had uttered. It wasn't. I saw it, and I don't remember the exact phrase he used, but he said something in jest, and I guess if you wanted to stretch your imagination, it could have been construed as such, but it really wasn't. And so there was nothing misogynistic that Luke Smith has ever said. I mean, he's pro-family, he's Christian, and he's white. That's pretty much all he needs. Well, I'm white, Christian, and male too. I'm not misogynistic. I am very traditional, though. Like, I'm the breadwinner of my house. My wife, does the work around the house. That's kind of the way I am. I don't care about it, though. And I think this is why a lot of people just kind of get things wrong, right? They think just because someone's traditional that they're misogynistic. We like the way we live. So how's that misogynistic? So that hit piece ended somewhere. I remember reading it, that it basically said that they reached out to Luke Smith for a comment to clear the air, to basically, redeem himself. And that he refused. But no doubt, you're doing a hit piece on him, right? It's kind of like, and I remember this just like yesterday, where Glenn Beck, did this hit piece on Ilhan Omar, suggesting that she might have married her own brother, her own biological brother. And because some obscure outlier source in Canada basically hinted towards the fact they couldn't prove that she didn't. And so then they walk up to her and, hey, do you have a comment of this? Dude, you're putting her life in danger. You think she has a comment for you? Come on, man. Okay. And that's pretty much it, was this hit piece, right? Where they go after Luke Smith because some rando sent him a Bitcoin. Whatever connection he felt to Luke Smith, I don't know what it was. Does Luke Smith kind of operate in some of the circles of some of the far alt-right? Loosely, I would say. I would say loosely that's true. But what the guy didn't say is that Luke Smith has a PhD in linguistics. He speaks 4 languages fluently, as far as I understand, and he knows a lot about language itself, whether you're talking Latin, Greek, whatever. He's gotten a lot of his influence from a lot of, older material that was written in Latin and Greek, for example. And he's even translated some of that into English and basically sells it on his website. And I've went through this for a while, and there's a whole bunch of things. So talks about how he got into how Luke Smith got into Monero about the same time, right? Because they can trace your transactions, right? And then this one, I think this guy speaks for the majority of us. Wow, the amount of smearing, distortion, outright lies, attempted associations with things that any morally upstanding citizen not to be against that keep coming up in this piece of garbage is astonishing. Yeah, no kidding. How far off reality that this writer is. This is what I'm saying. He's just he doesn't speak for anyone. I don't figure. But the thing is yeah, I called him pig vomit because look, why are you smearing people? I use a lot of the same technology. Yes, I'm a little bit of a boomer. I'm a Gen Xer, just like you. This surprises me. In fact, I'm looking at this guy. This guy is obvious Gen Xer, right? The author of that article. And I'm like, dude, you didn't grow up in the same America that I did because, dude, you would have got bitch slapped for something like this if you would have done this in real life. For real. In the 80s? The 90s? Are you kidding me? But whatever. It is what it is. But, yeah. And yeah, F this guy. I wouldn't send him a penny, but yeah, nobody should be harassed because they received a donation that other people can see. So this hit piece is indicative of what's going on in our society. Okay? Hey, buddy. And I don't really mean to make this guy feel terrible other than just for smearing an innocent person. But honestly, you should be ashamed of yourself. You are the reason why Kamala Harris lost. All this identity politics, this is the reason. It's people like this. I'm just curious, how can you justify anything else? There's a lot of people who just simply disagree with this whole narrative. And there's a lot of things that has happened since then. Luke Smith has been off of YouTube for over a year. I think he made a half a dozen videos after that, and then he just disappeared. He's gone because of people like this. And, the fact is, I use some of these technologies every day. I think they're superior. Why Why am I paying, all this money to do all these different things when I can use something like LaTeX or Markdown or Pandoc or something to write my documents? Why not use my computer and actually have my computer work for me? I mean, these are concepts that seem to be pretty lost on this fella. I mean, for real, like, it just blows my mind, really. And I've been wanting to make a video because it's one of those things that just infuriates me. How you can just live inside your bubble, smear people you know nothing about, don't create any context or possible context, and then go on to say, oh, well, we need censorship of the internet. Hey, I'm not for censorship of the internet at all, okay? That is not a thing I am for. You're going to limit free speech? That's what you want to do? I don't know. I think that a lot of people, when they reach a certain age, like maybe it's, around 28, 30 years old, they start thinking about their life, the choices that they're making, right? Maybe they were gaming a lot and now they quit gaming and they take their life a little more serious. And so somebody like Luke Smith, for example, who uses NeoVim, right? And he uses a bunch of tools, and he used those tools when he was going for his PhD. Like a lot of the tools, like he developed certain tools for different things when it came to linguistics. Like he did a lot of things that I think that this author cannot appreciate. And so it was helping him save time in college. And that's what this all boils down to is, it's like, yeah, I don't need all this garbage when I can do it, kind of minimalistically, and I can stay on top of things, stay organized and that sort of thing. And, just basically do a lot of the other things that I want to do. And that's what his whole message was. Hey, why are we gaming and wasting our time? Why are we doing this and that? Why aren't we, being more productive in our life? That message resonates with people, I think. Anyway, it's one of those things where it's pretty hilarious what people come up with. I'm not really that surprised, but I am a little surprised. So I think you should look at the title. That's the one thing that is probably most telling of this guy's slant, right? Far-right supporters move to open source to evade censorship. Okay. And you're already implying something that may or may not be there. And it's just hilarious to me because I just have to say, this is just a rag of an article. Like, seriously, if you would have printed it on paper, I would have wiped my butt with it. And I can't be any more clear than this, I don't think. It just makes my blood boil because good people get maligned for no reason. I don't have any evidence to suggest that Luke Smith is not a straight up person. Give me the evidence. Give me evidence. Don't give me like a bunch of weird associations. This guy is doing the same exact thing that Nick Fuentes does with Jewish bankers and this so-called conspiracy. He's doing the same exact thing here. Anyway, I've wanted to make a video about this for some time now. When I saw Brett on penguins and going out into the woods and that sort of thing, it was like, Yeah, her time's probably coming, maybe, and I hope not. So I hope that they don't come after us, right? I'm kind of hopeful of that, but I don't see any evidence that I don't think Luke Smith is that far right on a lot of issues. Like, the one thing that I do appreciate Luke Smith for, if I must be honest, is I do appreciate like his honesty, right? Like, he thinks about things and he says, look, this is kind of the way I think about it. And he has like a like very thought out answer about just about anything that you throw at him. And so when somebody comes out here and just, smears this person for no reason, I mean, it was uncalled for. Honestly, it was. And the only thing that happens is you put people's lives in danger when you do that. I hate it when Glenn Beck does it to AOC or Ilhan Omar. I hate it when you do this to Luke Smith. That's the bottom line. I hate it. Anyway, go ahead and check out my my last video on Anti-X. Have a good one, guys.